Hey everybody, welcome in. It's Matt Camp, and welcome to Wrestling Daily. So good I welcomed you twice. How you doing on this Monday as we begin another crazy week in the world of professional wrestling? Coming off of a busy weekend and a weird Sunday, I guess you'd say, in pro wrestling. We'll get to all that. We're heading into Fyter Fest, 4 hours coming your way this Wednesday on AEW. Fyter Fest, 4 hours live this Wednesday on TBS and Max. So you can be checking that out. And I lead with that right there. That is one of the marquee matchups, which we will talk about because the challengers for Kenny Omega's AEW International Championship were actually decided between last week's Dynamite and this past weekend's Collision. We will talk more about that coming up on the show. I'll go over some Collision highlights. Very interesting interaction between Swerve and Will Ospreay that we did not see on Dynamite. We did see on Collision. We will get to that. I know we have Money in the Bank coming up this weekend, in addition to Worlds Collide and Fyter Fest and such. So a lot to get to in the next couple of weeks here for AEW. The road to All in Texas is absolutely rolling right now. Coming your way on July 12th. There you go. The top two matches are already signed, sealed, and will be delivered to you on July 12th. Jon Moxley putting the AEW World Championship on the line against Hangman Adam Page, and Timeless Tony Storm taking on TBS champion Mercedes Moné. Both Hangman and Mercedes getting those title shots as a result of winning last weekend at Double or Nothing, winning their respective finals of the Owen Hart Foundation Cup, which earned them those respective title shots at All in Texas. Love to hear from you guys, whether you're watching live in the chat or you are watching after the fact, whether it be here or on my YouTube or wherever it may be that you see the clips. And you check me out on Busted Open or AEW or here, where I'm with you Monday through Thursday, 3 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll talk more about the Fyter Fest card coming up, but let's get into a little bit from Collision over the weekend. I know maybe some people might be still catching up on it, which you could do right now. Stream it on Max because it came after the end of the Knicks-Pacers series. Probably more important to a lot of people, sorry to Knicks fans and Pacer fans out there, but the end of Inside the NBA. And I was happy to see, and I should say the end of Inside the NBA on Turner Broadcasting, on TNT. And I'm not going to do a whole thing about that, but I was glad to see them get the time after the series ended, after the game has ended, to, you know, kind of wrap things up before they move networks next year, at least in terms of where they'll be broadcasted. But I know with all of that going on, if you didn't catch up on Collision, we could do so right now. As always, we like to do that here on a Monday on this very program. So let's jump into that. And as I said, there was a very interesting interaction between Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay. Let's take you back to Dynamite, and let's see what you think about this.
The squad that you're trying to get together to go against the Death Riders, I did that already. Anarchy, I'm done with it.
Don't push it.
You're delusional, man.
I'm not done talking.
What that? Whoa.
Stay down, Will. Stay the hell down. Get him away, Will. Stay down.
Certainly some issues to deal with here. I did not expect that. I did not expect that at all, between these two to come to blows at that level. But here's where you got to be right now. If you are Will Ospreay, you're realistic. You can accept what reality is. The reality is he lost to the better man in Hangman Adam Page. He told Swerve there. Has said it to him already plenty of times. I thought I was the guy to do the job. It's not me. Swerve, you had your chance. It's not you. It's Hangman. Now, for someone of Will Ospreay's stature and resume and star power and all that to say that, it is a rare major endorsement from someone who, as of right now, hasn't gotten that chance at Jon Moxley. But I think it is telling, and I think it is very necessary. It's not a matter of holding the title. It's a matter of holding the title from everyone else. It's a matter of if Hangman beats Jon Moxley, the spotlight is back on the world champion as a defending, fighting champion who will do what it takes to represent that title and that company properly. That's what Jon Moxley has said over and over. That's what he's doing. And then I have challenged that, this idea of, this is how I see things, and when I go, I want 100 more clones like me. And I remember there is an interview from months back, where Renee was doing it up close with the Death Riders. And she's talking to Mox and she's talking to Claudio. I think Marina was there. But she got all of them. But Claudio was standing next to Mox and he says, I want 100 more of me, 100 clones, whatever he said. So when I'm gone, they can continue on what I'm doing. And he said that right in front of Claudio. And I thought that was very telling of, there's always a level of BS when it comes to people that want to do things the way they think they should be done. Oh, I got to clean this place up. Oh, okay. I get that. And that's kind of how things started with Mox, right? He lost the IWGP Championship to Naito last year. He was away, and he came back, and it was he was angry. He was militant. He was, I need to fix this place. It's not your company anymore, Tony. And he said it to Shivani, and people wondered if it was really a message to Tony Khan, and that turned into the stuff with Darby, and it was maybe initially, it was weird. What the hell is he talking about? Right? It was that initially, and then it was, all right, so he doesn't like how things are going here. And then it became apparent, well, if I want to change how things are going here, I'm going to recruit accordingly, I'm going to act accordingly, and I'm going to do what I think needs to be done to fix. And that just so happened to include winning the AEW World Championship and throwing it in a briefcase. And to me, there is always a level, no matter what words come out of a champion, a villainous champion's mouth, no matter what words of, well, our group's going to take care of things, and I'm just trying, no. All of this coincides with Jon Moxley being the world champion. So what if that world championship is no longer around his waist at the end of All In Texas? What becomes the Death Riders? And maybe that is the point that needs to be made. To kill the snake, you cut off the head. If you take away Moxley's power, do those around him realize, hey, wait a minute. Maybe this was never about the greater good. This was about Jon Moxley being world champion and doing things his way. Wheeler's had multiple instances where he seemed to question what was going on. Claudio got his head caved in once already by a concerto. So Ospreay basically saying, hey, we got to get behind him. And he even said, I'm going to see if I can pull up this tweet very quickly here for you. I thought there was a very honest, and maybe, and will tell you, he's not always the best with words. There was a very the way Will put it, I think if he would have said it again, he would tell you, "Oh, that's kind of what I meant to say." I'm gonna pull this tweet up here so we can see it real quickly. He's responding to a tweet. Here you go. He's responding to a tweet here, just saying, "What opinion would you defend to your last breath? Swerve and Hangman don't need to be sending each other Christmas cards. They can get along to get the belt back. Then they can go back to killing each other." And what he's saying by that is, and I wish he kind of said that, and this is Will will tell you, hey, I'm not always the best with words. And sometimes I don't get across what I want to the way I want to. To me, that's him saying, listen, you guys got to get it together. We got to get this title away from Mox. Hangman's the guy to do that. As I'm saying, I think the other dominoes will fall. The Scourge, the stranglehold, which has loosened in 2025, but the stranglehold that the Death Riders have had on AEW really since Wrestle Dream last year when I sent Danielson away and stuff with Darby and all that. Without a world champion leading the way, because that's been what this is basically, everything we've seen has been this. But since then, if there's one, there's another, and you can take them out, but they will come back. But without power, maybe they don't keep that stranglehold so tight. So I get what Will is saying. He needs to explain that better to Swerve, and maybe Swerve says, hey, listen, you're right. Maybe it's a matter of him understanding it and saying, listen, if I do this, we're not done. We'll never be done. But if I have your back in this, you better win, number one. And number two, you and me, we're going to fight for that. And perhaps Will then would say, wait, hold on a second. Why can't I fight? And then we have a whole new way to set up challengers for the AEW World Championship based on competition, based on who wants to be the very best, not someone holding a championship as their collateral for being the man. The power that comes with being the AEW World Champion goes away from Jon Moxley. And it won't be used in such a way, if you're asking me, on the waist of Hangman Adam Page. We'll talk more about that, though. Let's go back to Collision, though, because we got to see, just talking about Claudio Castagnoli, we saw one of the remaining qualifiers for the AEW International Championship match that's taking place this Wednesday on Fyter Fest, special edition of Dynamite. And it would be Commander taking on Claudio Castagnoli, the aforementioned, and a rematch from their Continental Classic match, which cost Claudio a chance to move on past the block matches. But now these two would do it again with a chance to move into the four-way this Wednesday at Fyter Fest.
Fighting back here is Commander. He looks like he's going to spring up. Claudio looks like he's in some pain.
Look at this.
Shoulders. Springboard to the top into an arm drag. That's incredible. The things this young man can do. And again a DRS that time.
Unbelievable. Watch Commander.
And now Commander. Tope Corhido. The commander of the skies looks to take to the skies again.
Oh.
Wow. A twisting attempt at a moonsault. And Claudio has him caught. Good night. 1, 2, 3.
So Claudio getting the victory there. He moves on. He would join, of course, Brody King, who beat Josh Alexander last week on Dynamite. And in addition to that, we would go on to see in the main event, which I'll take you to right now, we got to see Mascara Dorada, I should say, excuse me. We got to see him with a chance to qualify. I've seen him before, but we take you to the main event right now. After, I would say what I would call a fairly lucha-heavy show, but let's go to that main event right now. Final spot on the line in the qualifier.
Now he is perched on top of the ring post. The ring post goes to the top and takes down Hechicero again. Talking about
Hechicero, who we have seen international qualifiers before. Look at that right there.
The spinning leg drop. Still, it worked. Up on top. Into Tierra's takedown. Dorada flips over and back.
Oh.
Got it. 1, 2. Up on top.
Watch Dorada here. Watch this.
Up.
Oh. And stays right on him here. Watch as he stays on top from the whole time. Dorada can string these together like almost no one else.
Perched. Got it. Shooting star. Press for the win.
And that brings us to what we will see this Wednesday at Fyter Fest. We will see this coming up on Wednesday at Fyter Fest. We will see Brody King, Mascara Dorada, and Claudio Castagnoli all challenging Kenny Omega for the AEW International Championship. That is a very fun match. That is a match that, to me, is such a wild mix of styles. That's the best way I would put it. It is a wild mix of styles. It is a wild mix of talent. I would say a match like this, it's okay. There's a lot of action going on. There's 4 different people in the ring, but the pairings that can happen that we really haven't seen much of, Kenny and Brody, or Claudio and Kenny. If you haven't noticed, Claudio versus any lucha usually goes quite well. It is the definition of what the International Championship is all about. We'll see it in Denver, Colorado. Now, interesting, I'm going to bring up here, and I'm sure it'll be brought up on commentary, a match like this, really the entire show, a 4-hour show in a higher altitude. Now, I will say, Dorada wrestles in that higher altitude more often. That could be something to consider in this match. Obviously, you think about the stamina of a Claudio, the unreal shape he is in. Kenny always comes correct, ready to go. And listen, Brody's the one you got to be careful of, because as the biggest man in the match, you could argue he could do the most damage with one move. I'd still argue, it's not a slight on anybody in here, it's just the freakish strength. I think Claudio's the strongest. Kenny's obviously the most established. He is the champion. He's got the biggest resume. Dorada's the most unique in this match, and like I said, he's wrestled in that elevation before, maybe a bit more often than the others. I love a good mix of styles, and we will get a hell of a mix of styles this Wednesday at Fyter Fest. Now, we're also going to see this, Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa taking on Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Now, we're going to have Mercedes on commentary, and then for those who didn't know, we did see Mercedes and Tony face off in a collision last week. Now, I do want to tell you why this is going down. We saw Mina take on Sky Blue this past Saturday at Collision. And we'll go to that now.
Once again, yes!
Got it! In the center of the ring, hooks the line!
1, 2, 3.
So Mina gets the victory there, as you see.
Third win in 2025.
But behind!
But there was Julia Hart, who was obviously all the way back with Sky Blue. But Mina's got a friend. Even if they just battle for the AEW Women's Championship at Double or Nothing, there is Toni Storm properly running to the ring to save Mina. And listen, sometimes you just got to dump somebody on your head. We'll get back to La Facción Ingobernable in a second, because that sets up another match for this weekend. But let's go back to what we're going to see at Fyter Fest here. As a result of that, this match is made Mercedes Monday on commentary. How about this as well? This is something I want to stay with here for 1 second as we're seeing the matches here for Fyter Fest. Kind of giving you a rundown of everything that you're going to see, including that Jon Moxley versus Mark Briscoe match. But all of this will be coming your way this Wednesday. And I move on here because for those who didn't see, teased for a bit in the last few, I'd say month or so, if you've seen that spider crawling around the screen during Collision or Dynamite, the toxic spider Thekla, who took down Jamie Hayter. Now, we didn't get to hear a lot from her. We didn't get to see a lot from her. It was very impactful. You heard from Excalibur that, Thekla was fired involuntarily from Stardom after attacking their president, Okada, not Kazuchika Okada. And now she is here in AEW. I spoke about this a little bit last week. This, to me, is one of the most talented performers, wrestlers of the last 2 years in terms of what she's been able to do in Stardom. Being that idol killer, she very much has an FU attitude. Really kind of went against the grain in Japan, but has been there for quite some time, but has really found herself in the last couple of years. And, I have posted about it. I've talked about her on this show. I've talked about her on previous shows and busted open far before, she was getting talked up or even really mentioned in a big way about coming to AEW. And to see her now be in AEW in such a deep women's division, I promise you, you're going to want to have eyes on her, and any way you can go back and check out what Thekla's done, you won't be disappointed. We will see her in-ring debut in AEW this Wednesday as part of the 4-hour Fyter Fest. Now, let's move on from that. As you saw, we're going to hear from the Hurt Syndicate. There was comments last Wednesday on Dynamite, talking about retaining the tag team titles. Max was part of that. And there was a line at one point where MJF talks about getting back the AEW title. And not that he had been negative towards Bobby and Shelton or anything about, before that, but there was it took Bobby a little bit by surprise. It was, hey, wait a minute. And that's been the problem the whole time with these guys, is MJF clearly wants the AEW World title. He thinks he hasn't been shy about that, but he thinks having that kind of backup will get him back there, get him back to the AEW World title. And I don't know if that's always totally been addressed. That might be an outstanding issue for MJF to, maybe talk about with the boys. Now, this match also comes off a Collision. FTR kind of throwing out this open challenge at Stoke. Atlantis Jr. and Templario came out. In El Paso, a lot of lucha influence on the shows in the last couple of weeks, which is always great to see. Get the great reaction there. And now this match will happen this Wednesday at Fyter Fest, as FTR, by the way, was out celebrating this past Saturday on Collision the fact that they are the they are the winningest team in AEW history. So congrats to them as they try to maybe fight their way back to the tag team titles. We will see this, as I mentioned, La Faction Ingobernable. Things all fell apart on Collision in their match. A lot of saves being made, and the good part about it is, as you can see, Kevin Knight, who I've been talking about a lot, he will get back to America for this one. We saw La Faction Ingobernable take on Top Flight and AR Fox this past weekend. As we'll see here.
Darius' eyes rolling to the back of his head.
Oh, God, that's got to be it. 1, 2, 3.
So they get the win, but they weren't done.
And Top Flight kept coming back. Cable.
Oh,
Whipping Darius.
What is going on? Can someone stop this? Speedball.
there's Speedball. There's Commander.
Commander as well.
Commander is out. Trying to even things up.
Finally, the numbers advantage working against LFI.
I tell you, we've got to restore some order here. Everything is really breaking down.
So we will see, as a result of those actions on Saturday night, La Faction Ingobernable taking on Dralistico, Beast Mortis, and Roosh, taking on, as you saw there, Speedball Mike Bailey, Commander, and the returning Kevin Knight, fresh off his appearance in his third Best of Super Juniors. 8 points there in his block alongside Nick Wayne, who also had 8 points. Neither man won the Best of Super Juniors, but they'll be back. But we know Kevin Knight is coming right back to action. What a team this is. Jet Speed, Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey joining forces with Commander in this trios match at Fyter Fest this Wednesday, I should say, of course. So looking forward to that one. That'll be a wild one. Once again, back to the elevation. Little different when the elevation is what it is in those situations. How about this one? We'll come back here for a second. Let's talk about this one. Mark Briscoe threw the challenge out, and it will be him and Jon Moxley. I wrote an article, at the beginning of the year, at the end of last year, about opponents I wanted to see for Moxley in this reign. We have seen him mix it up with Mark Briscoe from time to time, but to get the title match, which this is not a title match, we haven't seen this one-on-one match. We are getting it this Wednesday. Moxley not happy with Briscoe, sticking his nose in the Anarchy in the Arena match, even though it's been the entire Death Riders MO and Gabe Kidd involved and all that. But Mark Briscoe, who had lost earlier in the night to Ricochet, came out like a wild man, still covered in blood from that match, coming out to settle the score to even the odds. So it's him and Moxley this Wednesday at Fyter Fest. That's a hell of a match. That is a hell of a match on a 4-hour show. So loaded card here. We'll take you all through it again. There's the international title match. Brody, Dorada, Castagnoli, all challenging Kenny Omega for the international title. We will see the AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Toni Storm tagging with Mina Shirakawa to take on Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Mercedes Moné on commentary for that one. Thekla making her in-ring debut. You want to see that one. We'll hear from the Hurt Syndicate. We will see this tag match here and a little bit more lucha in this trios match, including the returning Kevin Knight and, of course, Jon Moxley and Mark Briscoe going one-on-one this Wednesday night. It is Fyter Fest. We'll be talking more about that in the coming days, preview a little bit more about it tomorrow. I know Raw tonight, some things to discuss here at the end of the show very quickly. As I said the last time, news similar to this happened about releases or people leaving WWE. I don't promote it as such. I don't say this is a must-see show because I'm going to talk about it, because I don't believe in promoting people losing their jobs as an enticement for you to come watch me or anything I'm doing. I think you guys know I'll talk about that stuff, but it's odd to me to make that like a can't miss our show. We're going to talk about people losing their job. It doesn't taste right to me, especially when I know those people sometimes. But we found out yesterday that as both men announced themselves, Carlito said his contract will not be renewed with WWE, and he is done in 2 weeks. Which, got that pop in Puerto Rico a couple years ago. They didn't bring him back right away, and then they did, and ended up being LWO, but he was at JD, and then he was just good for him. I appreciated his tweet, kind of poking fun at the run he has had. He's always been someone who's well aware of exactly what he's doing and his perception. And he's like, cool, I don't care. I can laugh. So he moves on. Now, no offense to Carlito, but I don't know the last time I saw any kind of I guess there's a mix of outrage, outpouring. I don't think you're seeing any rage from WWE contracted talent. I don't think you're seeing rage publicly. I think you're seeing a lot of what I always talk about when something really good or really bad happens to someone in wrestling. If you want to know how loved they are, you will see it from all corners of the world. You'll see it from, people, if it's something legitimate and big. Or even something big that's like a title win, but a big crowning achievement. If someone is truly beloved, you will see them get all kinds of congratulations and be celebrated by people who they work with, who they worked with, who they never worked with, fans, whatever. And the flip side, if something terrible happens, a big injury or something like that, you'll see, the outpouring of support. I was sitting on my couch yesterday morning. I guess I was a little pined because I was, spending some time with my family on a Sunday. And I saw the post from Truth. I think I saw it on Instagram first. And I said, oh, it's June 1st. He's doing a bit. He thinks it's April Fool's Day. Like, that was the first, because it was so specific. And I'm like, well, not the best thing to joke about considering what just happened. I said, it's got to be a bit. There'd be no reason for him to say he got released. And then I'm like, did he do something wrong? Well, why would he get released? And you see the responses. And some people that used to work, like, this can't be real or what. And I'm kind of going like, it is a weird thing to post. So I check around and I text some people. And by the time I'm waiting for answers back, I see it's reported by multiple outlets. It's true. Not released, but his contract will not be renewed. So there is a difference there. Whenever that is up for Truth. And then you see the unbelievable amount of people who are reacting to that high up in the world in WWE. And I'm going to say something that I unfortunately think needs to be said. Just because somebody doesn't tweet them or do an Instagram post, or some people aren't on there all the time. They have one of these. I'm sure Ron got texts from people and all that stuff and calls. And, there were people who, wished me well when I was gone. Doesn't mean they had to go post about it. They could call me. They could send me a text. They could send me a DM. They find out after the fact. Now, that was the news of the day on a Sunday. And it's the reality that I think has been in a lot of people's face a lot more, I think, since the beginning of this year. That's a reality that a lot of us have faced, but our Truth's in a different category. It's an odd way for that news to come out. It's an odd way for his tenure to end, and I, like many people, there's no role for him. There's nothing, and maybe there will be. Maybe it's the contract runs out and he's going to take a break. I've heard of people getting let go before, and so they get, paid whatever's left. But those are releases. Sometimes, if they do a release and there's time left on your contract, you get paid those 90 days. That's your non-compete. Then you go work. I've known people who have done that and then, get brought back after in a different role. This is a contract ending, which means when the contract ends, he's free to go. It's not having to wait that 90 days or 30 days like NXT. And I know a lot of those people came free in the last couple of days. Everything that people have said about Truth is true. No pun intended. What you saw from him on TV, because I know there's some hilarious stuff and there's stuff that's like, oh, that's kind of setting things back a little bit. And don't put that on him. You think about who was writing for him. You name it, he did it. And could do it. And did it at a high level and made the most of his moments. And will always be that. You will not find a person who looks at Truth and says, man, he was tough. For anytime you got to work with him, it was a day off. I interviewed him multiple times. I did segments with him. I did social bits with him. It didn't matter. And my goodness, who's better to? Here's me, the straight guy announcer. Easiest thing in the world to do is play that to Truth. You're not doing it. You're not stealing his spotlight, and it's not his spotlight to steal. You're not going to be funnier than him, so you just go with it. And he was always down for anything. He was always down, whether he was doing a comedy bit, whether he was low on the card, whether he was coming to headquarters. He's, doing fun stuff. He was always wanting to do it. He had ideas. He hosted the Slammies. I know I'm running late here, but I threw out an idea to have him win back or do some kind of 24/7 title change, because we had him and Drake Maverick on Bump, and we had them both booked, and we had John Cone booked to be a referee, and it was going to happen, and then they just randomly had Truth drop it to one of the Bollywood boys for I don't think any reason. It didn't go anywhere. No offense to those guys. I'm not trying to knock them, but it didn't lead to anything major. I honestly think they did it so we couldn't do our thing, and we still made the most of it. They ended up making up instead. And it's one of my favorite things, as opposed to, that we literally pivoted. We pivoted and changed it, because I think we kind of got some approval or whatever about a title match we could do with 24/7 title. And then we found out, we don't have the title now because it's not a Bollywood boy. They changed it to having a truce. He's the best. I hope he makes a bunch of money, whatever he does next. And I hope people understand what loyalty will get you, or being likable, or being a locker room joy. It will make you a lot of friends. It will get you all of that support. Even someone that beloved is going to be a number. I don't know if Truth will come back. I don't know if he's going to hit. I don't know where he's going to end up. That's a tough way for a lot of people to find out about somebody that well liked. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about Monday Night Raw. A couple of qualifiers. Stephanie Vaquer now going to Raw. She'll be in the qualifier tonight with Liv and Ivy. A weird other qualifier. Grande Americano, AJ Styles, and CM Punk is also a Money in the Bank qualifier. Punk and AJ's. And, Chad Gable. That's, anyway. Yeah, so we'll talk more about that tomorrow. More AEW news, whatever's going on in the world of professional wrestling. I will be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more. Right here. Bleacher Report. See you then, everybody.